Dried blood marked his graphite cuff as two armed men entered the last train from Busan. Melina Carter, a Black American crisis management and corporate security consultant, had just watched her career disappear. Her former director stole her crisis plan, blamed her for leaked documents, and canceled her ticket. She bought the final first-class seat herself. One suitcase, one computer, one chance to rebuild in Seoul. The stranger beside her wore a black overcoat and a watch worth more than her new firm. Kang Joon-seo was the feared Bakryong boss, called the Midnight Crane. A scar cut one eyebrow. Blood spread beneath his sleeve. His phone had no signal. Then the men began checking every passenger traveling alone. Joon-seo placed a vintage gold wedding ring between them. "You're my wife for the next 3 hours." Melina never touched it. She made him ask. She set 3 rules: no touching without permission, complete answers, her story. He agreed, just as a hunter raised his phone. The camera flashed, binding her face to his danger. Melina slid on the ring and built their cover, newlyweds. A ruined dress, an apology that money could not buy. But the armed stranger kept watching their hands, and the ring was the one thing nobody could stop searching for. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. Melina Carter ended the call while the director was still explaining why her name had vanished from the report. She lowered the phone and watched her one-way ticket glow on the screen beneath it. 11 minutes remained before the last KTX left Busan for Seoul. Her former director called again. Melina declined it, opened the email he had sent, and read the first paragraph beside her suitcase. The company accepted her resignation. It also reserved the right to pursue her for mishandling confidential documents. She called him back. "You approved every transfer," she said. "That isn't the issue now." "Then name the issue." His breath scraped the receiver. "Your access appeared in the leak. Because you ordered me to contain it. The board needs one clear account." Melina shifted her computer bag higher on her shoulder. Around her, passengers moved toward the platform gates while the departure clock consumed another minute. "You presented my containment plan this morning," she said, "under your name. We are discussing liability. You received the promotion." Silence answered first. Then his voice softened into the tone he used before asking her to repair someone else's disaster. "Come back tomorrow, sign the revised statement. I can keep this from following you." Melina opened the attachment. The statement said she had acted without authorization, concealed material facts, and endangered the client relationship. Her thumb rested over the signature field. "It already followed me," she said. "Think carefully." "I have." She deleted the document, blocked his number, and slid the phone into her caramel coat. The platform gate flashed red when she presented her ticket. She tried again, pressing the code flat beneath the scanner. "This ticket was canceled," the attendant said. Melina checked the receipt. The company travel account had reversed the purchase 3 minutes after her termination. She looked toward the departures board. 7 minutes. "Sell me another. First class is all that's left. 1 seat?" The last one. The price took most of what remained in her Korean account. She paid from her personal card, took the new ticket, and pulled her suitcase through the gate. Her independent consultancy existed as a registered name, an unfinished website, and a folder of proposals on her computer. None of those could board without her. At the escalator, another email arrived. The promotion committee had suspended consideration of her candidacy following an internal ethics concern. Melina read the notice once, saved it to an evidence folder, and continued downward. Her hand tightened around the suitcase handle until the wheels struck the platform. The conductor raised one gloved hand. "Board now, please." Melina ran. Her computer struck her hip as she passed the final car, counting signs toward first class. The departure chime sounded. She reached the nearest door, lifted her suitcase over the gap, and stepped inside as the panels closed behind her coat. The carriage was nearly full. A junior attendant named Lee Yoon-ho checked her ticket, pointed toward the rear, and hurried to secure a luggage cabinet. Melina followed the seat numbers past couples, sleeping executives, and a family dividing snacks across a table. Her seatmate occupied the window side of the last open pair. Kang Joon-seo, known inside Betrayal as the Midnight Crane, appeared too composed for a man gripping his own wrist beneath the table. Long black hair brushed the collar of his black overcoat, part of it tied back. A small scar cut the skin near one eyebrow. His graphite cuff had absorbed a dark stain, but dried blood still marked its edge. Melina stopped beside him. "You're in my aisle space." His attentive eyes moved from her ticket to the carriage door. He drew his feet inward. "My apologies." She stored the suitcase overhead, kept the computer beneath the seat, and sat. On his wrist, a discreet watch caught the carriage light before his sleeve covered it. Its value could have funded her new firm for a year. The train began moving. Busan Station slid backward beyond the glass, and the carriage settled into the low vibration of speed. Joon-seo lifted his phone, checked the empty signal bars, and placed it face down. "The wireless service usually returns outside the station," Melina said. "This phone uses another network." "One that bleeds?" His gaze dropped to his cuff. "You notice too much. People paid me for that yesterday." He pressed a folded handkerchief against his forearm. The movement opened his coat enough for Melina to see a second patch of blood near his ribs. She reached toward the attendant call button. Joon-seo caught her wrist, then released it at once. "No staff." "Touch me again, and staff will be kinder." "Understood." The door at the front of the carriage opened. Two men entered in dark jackets, moving separately while watching the seat numbers. The first leaned toward an elderly passenger traveling alone and showed something inside his coat. The second checked the overhead racks, then studied each solitary face. Joon-seo angled his dead phone toward the window. In its reflection, he tracked both men without turning his head. "Friends?" Melina asked. "They would use a different word." "Police?" "No." The first man questioned a student 2 rows ahead. His jacket shifted, revealing the grip of a handgun. Melina closed her computer with one finger and measured the distance to the next carriage. The second man moved into the aisle before she could rise. Joon-seo drew a vintage gold wedding ring from his pocket. Fine wear softened its edges. He placed it on the fold-down table between them as the armed men advanced. "You're my wife for the next 3 hours." Melina left the ring where it lay. That sounded like an order. "It is the fastest way off this train alive." "Then learn to ask quickly." For the first time, his control slipped. His fingers tightened around the bloodied cloth, and a pulse moved beneath his jaw. One hunter stopped across the aisle to inspect a sleeping man's face. Joon-seo turned fully toward her. "Will you pretend to be my wife until Seoul?" 3 rules, Melina said. "No touching without permission. You answer every question I ask. I control the story." "Agreed." "Say all 3. No touching, complete answers. Your story." Melina studied the ring, but kept both hands in her lap. "Why are they looking for someone alone?" "Because I boarded alone." The second hunter looked at Joon-seo, then at Melina's empty finger. He touched his earpiece and reached their row. "Reservation name?" Melina glanced at the ring and invented one. "Mr. and Mrs. Reed." The hunter repeated, "Mrs. Reed," into his earpiece. His thumb opened the camera. The hunter raised his phone before Melina could stand. Its camera flashed once, capturing her beside Joon-seo, and the man sent the image with one tap. Leaving now would only turn one target into 2. Melina picked up the ring, held Joon-seo's gaze, and slid it onto her finger. She gave him their cover in a whisper, a Busan hotel, spilled coffee, and a rushed marriage. He disliked coffee. For the next inspection, he would love it. She moved his bloodied hand beneath the table, using the edge of his handkerchief, never touching his skin. Then she leaned close enough to make their private exchange look intimate. What name do I use? Kang Joon-seo. The truth? You required complete answers. The hunter stopped beside them. Traveling together? Melina gave him a tired wife's glance. We were, until he decided the last train was an appropriate honeymoon. Joon-seo watched her for half a beat. My wife wanted soul. Your wife wanted honesty. The hunter looked between them. How did you meet? He ruined my dress with coffee, Melina said, then offered me money. And she refused it. Why marry him? Melina took Joon-seo's hand, granting permission through the act itself. His fingers stayed loose beneath hers. Because the second time, he apologized without buying forgiveness. Something changed behind Joon-seo's eyes. The lie had landed where an answer belonged. The hunter studied their joined hands, then moved toward the rear door. Melina released Joon-seo and named what had changed. The photograph meant his danger now followed her off the train. He agreed. His uncle had the strongest reason to send the men, though Joon-seo still lacked proof. What does he want? Joon-seo glanced at the ring. Something I took from him. The carriage speakers chimed before Melina could press him. Lee Eun-ho entered with two men wearing railway security armbands. One carried a badge too low on his belt. The other kept his jacket closed over his right hip. Routine security inspection, the first announced. Identification ready. Yoon-ho's eyes moved toward the badge, then away. He continued down the aisle, under the second man's hand. Melina opened her passport, while Joon-seo produced a Korean identification card. Permission to touch your shoulder, Joon-seo murmured. Denied. Follow my lead. The inspector reached their row. Melina snapped her passport shut before he could take it. I told you to book the afternoon train, she said to Joon-seo. We had business. You always have business. She pulled the ring free and dropped it into her coat pocket. The inspector's attention followed the bare finger, then cut to both of Joon-seo's hands. The inspector demanded their documents. Melina pushed her passport across and told him to take her husband's first. Perhaps the officer could explain where Joon-seo spent his nights. Passengers turned toward the quarrel. The inspector checked Joon-seo's photograph without reading the card. His gaze returned to knuckles, cuffs, and empty fingers. Asked about luggage, Melina claimed the single suitcase as hers. Her husband, she added, traveled with secrets. Joon-seo placed his card on the table. My wife is angry. Your wife is finished. She stood and pulled her computer from beneath the seat. The inspector shifted aside rather than detain a furious woman under 20 curious stares. Melina walked toward the cafe car. Joon-seo waited 3 seconds, collected both documents, and followed. The lights dimmed as the train entered a tunnel. Melina chose the last cafe table, beyond the reflection of the connecting door. Joon-seo sat opposite her and pressed fresh napkins against his side. Melina pointed out that the men had watched his hands while barely seeing their faces. The inspection ended when she removed the ring. What is inside it? It belonged to my mother. True answer. Incomplete answer. Footsteps passed the cafe entrance. Joon-seo reached toward her pocket, stopped before contact, and lowered his hand. Keep it hidden. She reminded him that he had surrendered command when she accepted the cover. Melina set her computer on the table, shielding it with her body. The ring's inner edge had shifted against the pocket lining. She pressed the seam with a fingernail. A narrow panel released, exposing a storage contact no larger than a grain of rice. Joon-seo closed the computer halfway. That cannot be opened here. Then answer before I do. It contains evidence. Against your uncle? His silence lasted one breath too long. Melina connected the contact through the adapter in her computer case. An encryption window appeared, followed by a key request. Joon-seo entered 12 characters while she watched his hand weaken over the keyboard. Folders filled the screen. Payment ledgers linked shell companies to Kang Joon-seo. Route maps marked ports and human cargo transfers. Still images showed chained doors, numbered rooms, and men unloading terrified passengers. Joon-seo turned one image away from the aisle. Melina asked whether his organization ran the operation. Joon-seo named his uncle's faction and said he had banned it. He had collected proof instead of starting a war, because the witnesses would be buried first. She opened the communications archive. Park Moo-jin's name appeared beside train times, carriage numbers, and Joon-seo's private meeting in Seoul. A security report included the location of his wound before he had boarded. Melina said his chief had sold him out. Joon-seo read the signature twice. His thumb pressed into the table until the nail lost color. Joon-seo said Moo-jin had raised him after his father's death. Melina answered by pointing to the carriage number that had guided armed men to his seat. Melina disconnected the device, sealed the compartment, and placed the ring between them. Joon-seo left it there. "You didn't choose me because I looked married," she said. "You chose me because no one would search the stranger beside you. At first, yes. You made me carry evidence without consent. Yes. That photograph made the risk permanent. I miscalculated. You used me, say it." Joon-seo straightened, despite the blood spreading beneath his coat. "I used you. I was wrong." The train emerged from the tunnel. An announcement placed the next stop 12 minutes away. Joon-seo moved the ring back toward Melina, but his open hand offered no demand. "A loyal man can meet you there," he said. "He will protect you and erase the photograph from their network. And the evidence?" "Stays with me." Melina looked at the ring, then at the hunter entering the cafe car behind Joon-seo. "At the next station, you may leave," Joon-seo said. "This time, the choice is yours." Melina closed her hand over the ring as the hunter crossed the cafe car. Joon-seo saw the weapon beneath his jacket and pushed himself upright, blocking the table from view. "Your answer," Joon-seo said. "I haven't given one. You have 8 minutes." The hunter stopped at the counter and pretended to examine bottled water. In the window, his reflection kept its eyes on Melina's pocket. She leaned toward Joon-seo. "Your evidence names traffickers, officials, and your own security chief. Yes. You put all of them behind me. I believed they would pass you. Men like you always call that protection." Her former director had praised her judgment in closed rooms, then placed her name on the failure. Joon-seo had trusted her face to carry his risk before he trusted her with its name. Different men. The same clean transfer of consequence. The ring struck the table when she set it down. "I was leaving at the next station, not with your loyal man. Alone." Joon-seo inclined his head. "Then alone. And you don't erase that photograph. You give me the network copy." "Agreed. You don't get credit for agreeing after the choice is gone." The brakes seized. A bottle flew from the counter and shattered against a seat. Melina caught the table as the carriage pitched forward. Joon-seo turned toward the aisle, but the old wound folded him against the bench. The ceiling lights died. Emergency strips flickered once, leaving the windows black. The train stopped with no platform outside, only the faint outline of rock beside the tracks. The hunter drew his pistol. Joon-seo drove the table upward into the man's wrist. The shot tore through a light panel. Melina swept the ring into her pocket, grabbed her computer, and struck the attacker's hand with its metal edge. The pistol skidded under the counter. "Rear door," Joon-seo ordered. "Ask." He caught the hunter's elbow and forced it across the table. "Please move." Melina moved. The connecting door opened before she reached it. Two men, in railway security armbands, pushed passengers out of first class. One pointed toward the rear cars, while the other shouted that smoke had been detected ahead. Families obeyed the uniform. An elderly man stumbled as the crowd compressed around him. Beyond the rear window, another armed man waited beside the coupling door. Melina planted herself across the aisle. "Stop moving." The false officer raised his badge. "Emergency evacuation. Go back." "There is no smoke protocol toward a sealed coupling." He reached for her. Joon-seo stepped between them and took the knife meant for her beneath his ribs. His fist drove the attacker into the wall. The second man charged. Joon-seo turned, blood spreading through his graphite shirt, and held the narrow aisle long enough for Melina to pull the elderly passenger behind a seat. "Where is Yoon-ho?" she asked. A fist struck the service vestibule window. The junior attendant was locked beyond it, waving his red emergency flashlight. Two invaders stood between him and the manual release. Melina counted doors. Cafe car behind her, first class ahead, service vestibule between the attackers. The false evacuation was not moving people away from danger. It was feeding them into a cage. She pointed to a father near the aisle. "Seat everyone, keep heads below the windows." "Who are you?" "The person changing the route. Do it." He pulled his children down and repeated the order in Korean. Other passengers followed his voice. The aisle emptied before the false officers could use the crowd as cover. Melina reached the attendant panel beside the cafe counter. Its screen demanded a staff code. Yoon-ho aimed the flashlight through the glass and blinked 4 numbers with his thumb. She entered them. The internal system opened. "You cannot evacuate them here," Joon-seo said. One hand covered his new wound. The other held the first hunter against the floor. "I'm not evacuating them." Melina selected the forward carriage speakers and activated the microphone. "Attention. Electrical fire reported in the rear section. Railway personnel must secure all rear vestibules. Passengers remain seated and await the forward team." The lie traveled through 6 cars. Footsteps beyond the rear door reversed. The 2 men guarding Yoon-ho looked back, uncertain whether their own team had changed the plan. Melina flashed the carriage lights from the panel. Yoon-ho answered with 3 bursts of red. "On the 3rd, she said. Joon-seo looked at the coupling controls. "That lock needs pressure from both sides." "Then stay conscious." "That was not one of your rules." "It is now." Melina cut the lights again. Yoon-ho released his side as she opened the cafe partition. The 2 attackers rushed through the gap. Joon-seo slammed the first door behind them. Yoon-ho sealed the second. The men struck both windows, trapped in the unlit space between cars. Yoon-ho stumbled into the carriage, clutching the flashlight. Melina took it and directed him toward the passengers. "Move families forward, 1 row at a time. No running. Use names if they freeze." "What about you?" "I'm closing the last door." Joon-seo released the hunter on the floor only after Eun-ho bound the man's wrists with a service cable. Then, his knees hit the carpet. Melina caught his shoulder and lowered him against the wall. Blood covered her palm when she pressed his shirt. He pulled the vintage ring from her pocket, but instead of taking it, he closed her fingers around it. "My mother wore it," he said. "Hyun-tae ordered the attack that killed her. The files proved it. You waited until I was carrying her grave to tell me." "Yes." "No more hidden weight. No more." His hand slipped from hers. Melina used his handkerchief against the wound, tightened his coat around it, and placed the ring back on her own finger. "This is not forgiveness." "I know. It means I decide where the evidence goes." Joon-seo managed one nod. "Your decision." Metal cracked behind them. The trapped attackers had broken the vestibule release cover. On Melina's panel, every forward door turned red at once. Someone outside the train had taken control of the system, sealing the passengers in as the coupling lock began to open. Melina drove her palm against the emergency panel as the coupling lock opened another centimeter. A warning tone pulsed through the carriage. Beyond the cracked cover, the trapped men forced a metal lever downward. Yoon-ho, cut that vestibule circuit. It also controls the forward doors. Only for 9 seconds. Count aloud. He pulled the breaker. Darkness swallowed the red indicators, and Melina reached through the broken cover. Her fingers found the manual latch. Joon-seo braced one shoulder beneath her arm and drove the coupling door shut while she turned it. 7, Yoon-ho called. 8. Now. Power returned. The lock snapped green, trapping the attackers behind reinforced glass. Yoon-ho released the forward doors, and passengers moved toward the conductor's team. The train shuddered, then began rolling toward Seoul. Melina lowered Joon-seo into a service seat. His blood crossed the cloth at his ribs, but the pressure held. She handed Yoon-ho the flashlight and told him to meet the medics at arrival. Joon-seo's phone vibrated. Signal bars had returned. A message from Park Moo-jin filled the screen. Platform 7 is secure. Send Mrs. Reed out first. Melina read it twice. Who told your people that name? No one. Only the hunter at our row heard Mrs. Reed. She pointed at the message. He repeated it into his earpiece. Joon-seo's thumb hovered above Moo-jin's name. Train times, carriage numbers, the wound, and the private Seoul meeting had already appeared beneath that name on the ring chip. Now 2 careless words completed the chain. He wants us on 7, Joon-seo said. Then we give him the arrival he planned. Melina opened her evidence folder on the computer. She copied the ring archive, attached Moo-jin's message, and addressed both to Han So-yeon. The prosecutor's reply arrived before the train entered Seoul. Keep the original moving. Record anything he admits. You trust her? Melina asked. She once indicted my father. That was not my question. He met her eyes. Yes. She returned the ring to her finger and activated emergency recording on her phone. Then she typed Moo-jin's answer from Joon-seo's device. Wife has the original. Boss is failing. 7 confirmed. Joon-seo watched her send it. What is my role? Stay wounded. Stay angry. Let your uncle believe both. And if he reaches for you? Ask before interfering. The train entered the station. On platform 7, Park Moo-jin waited beside Kang Hyun-tae. Moo-jin's hand rested near his jacket. Hyun-tae stood behind a luggage cart, using it to hide 2 black cases and the gap between his men. The doors opened. Melina stepped out first, while Joon-seo leaned against the frame behind her. Moo-jin glanced at the ring before checking Joon-seo's wound. Mrs. Reed, he said, come with me. Melina stopped beyond the yellow line. That woman exists only on your men's report. Moo-jin reached for his earpiece. Joon-seo took his wrist and turned him against the train without striking. Choi Min-jae stepped from behind a platform column with 2 loyal officers and removed Moo-jin's pistol. Hyun-tae stayed behind the cart. You brought a prosecutor's evidence to a train station. You brought your confession, Melina said. His heavy-lidded eyes settled on her phone. A recording needs words. Then remain silent. She turned toward the stairs. Hyun-tae moved at once. Joon-seo's mother tried silence, he said. She still died. Joon-seo's grip tightened around Moo-jin's wrist. Melina kept walking until Hyun-tae stepped beyond the cart. An accident, according to the family, she said. According to me, Hyun-tae pulled off one glove. I ordered her car stopped. Moo-jin changed the route. Your midnight crane inherited because I permitted it. The phone screen pulsed beneath Melina's coat, sending every word to Seo-yeon. Hyun-tae extended his bare hand. Give me the ring, and your photograph disappears. You sound like my former director. I can restore your name. Melina drew out the phone instead. A delivery mark appeared beside the prosecutor's address. My name was never yours to restore. Han So-yeon crossed from the stairwell, carrying her red folder. Plainclothes officers closed both ends of the platform. She displayed the warrant, took the ring chip from Melina, and matched its serial number to the copy already received. Jin twisted free of Min-jae and lunged for the fallen pistol. Joon-seo reached it first. He raised the weapon toward Hyun-tae. His uncle spread both hands. Your father would finish this. My mother paid for his lessons. Then make her death useful. Joon-seo removed the magazine, cleared the chamber, and placed the pistol at Seo-yeon's feet. It ends without another body. Seo-yeon cuffed Hyun-tae while another officer secured Jin. The black cases opened under warrant. Inside lay cash, duplicate ledgers, and the device that had controlled the train doors. The consequence occupied the platform in labeled evidence bags. The station clock changed as Seo-yeon led them away. Exactly 3 hours had passed since the ring crossed the fold-down table. Melina removed it and set it in Joon-seo's open palm. My firm takes no Betrayal money, she said. Understood. And tonight buys nothing. What does it earn? She collected her suitcase and computer. The chance to ask later. Melina walked through Seoul with the evidence restoring her professional record, but she built the consultancy with her own contracts. 6 months later, the last illegal Betrayal operation closed under Seo-yeon's supervision. Joon-seo entered Melina's office as her first official client, under a compliance agreement she had written and he could not alter. He placed 2 plain train tickets on her desk. No ring sat between them. How long does this journey last? He asked. Melina took 1 ticket. As long as asking remains a habit. He waited. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever worn a ring hiding someone else's evidence? Could you trust a client who first exploited your crisis expertise? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, truth, and agency, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.